Back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and welcome to our mid-weekly news roundup. Now, typically, we have this segment on Fridays, but due to it being Holy Week and with special programming from EWTN on Friday, we wanted to share today really two fascinating stories from the world of faith that are making some waves both locally and globally. First, we'll kind of explore the surge in new members joining the Catholic Church in England this Easter Vigil, with young men leading the charge in numbers not seen in over a decade. Then we're going to go ahead and head on over to the Vatican, where new rules on mass intentions and stipends are aiming to balance spiritual integrity with practical needs, complete with a call for solidarity across parishes worldwide. And joining me to help unpack some of these stories, you've heard his voice every single day on Morning Joy, giving us the updates on our daily headlines. Matt Maloney is going to be bringing a knack for bringing fresh perspectives to the table. Matt, it's great to have you with us this morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Spy Wednesday, if that's a thing to say to people.
I said that this morning, beginning of the show, and I'm like, is that appropriate? The happy Spy? I don't know. I think it kind of catches some people's attention and realize, oh yeah, today is a very special day in a kind of a different way. Anywho, so our first story takes us to England, where the Catholic Church is gearing up for an Easter Vigil unlike any in recent memory. So this Holy Saturday, April 19th, parishes across the country there are expecting a decade-high surge of new members joining through the rite of Christian initiation of adults. I mean, they used to be RCIA, now it's OCIA. What's especially striking, though, is the number of young men stepping forward, many in their 20s and 30s, drawn to the church in a trend that's kind of raising a lot of people's eyebrows and sparking some hope, which it should. It's the Jubilee year of hope. So now for those unfamiliar, the Easter Vigil is the pinnacle of the Catholic liturgical year. A night of fire, light, and rebirth, where catechumens, those who are preparing for baptism, and candidates, those already baptized but entering full communion, are welcomed into the church. It really is a big deal, and this year, dioceses like Westminster, I should say, Birmingham, and Liverpool are reporting numbers that are just huge, not seen since the early 2010s. So what is driving this? What exactly is the driving point? Why are we seeing so many, especially younger generations, being more drawn to the Catholic Church? So I don't know, Matt, what you've had your hands deep into some of these news stories. What do you think is the main cause behind some of this trend?
Well, there's a lot of things going on. It's interesting to know this is not just one diocese. This is something that's being seen all over England. And it's also something that we're seeing in the United States, not quite to the same level, but some of the same trends. For example, young men are particularly drawn to the faith these days. The article cites social media as a big factor. It's very interesting that all the social media accounts, or, influencers, if you would, they're all American. So Bishop Barron, Father Mike Schmitz, Trent Horn, Edward Shree, etc. So I find that very interesting that they're kind of turning to the Americans to say, hey, you guys seem to have answers on these sort of things. So I find that quite interesting. But like I said, this is a trend that we're seeing everywhere. The unique thing is that in England, a lot of the people who are converting to Catholicism tend to be coming from non-religious backgrounds, whereas in the United States, New Catholics tend to be coming from Protestant and evangelical churches. So that's something that's slightly different in what we're experiencing. But yeah, it's a very consistent trend. Because young people are attracted, I have to believe that we're living in a world where there's just so much confusion. People look for answers.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church is just so consistent with answers. And it's the level playing field of social media, right? So if you were to go back years ago, the media landscape was really dominated by major media sources. And now sort of any person who wants to create content that has good value, they can get the attentions of a lot of people. And so it's sort of like this whole truth rises concept of, a lot of people can put stuff out there, but then the things that really resonate with people is what kind of like rises to the top, and then people find that and what they're looking
Hmm.
for. Also of note is, if you want to go back to like 2010 or a little earlier, when they did see higher numbers, a lot of that had to do with Pope Benedict opening up the like Anglican ordinariate, right? So
Mm.
there's a lot of Anglicans who wanted to come into the Catholic Church. So Pope Benedict sort of made these provisions for them to be able to retain some of their Anglican traditions and some of their Anglican calendars and feast days, but within a Catholic context. So I think this spike is even more extraordinary because they kind of weighted the numbers back then, because there was already sort of these large number of Anglicans kind of waiting in the wings trying to find their way into the church. So there's a lot of hope out there.
Wow. That is, I when I saw like, oh, we haven't seen these numbers since 2010. I'm like, well, what exactly happened in 2010? I'm glad you mentioned
Yeah,
the ordinariate of Our Lady of Walsingham. That's incredible.
yeah, and I don't think a lot of us were like in 2010, like, oh, look at the numbers coming in, right? It was very much off the radar for the majority of people.
Yeah, there was a new article. I didn't get a chance to put it in to the show notes here, but essentially it's almost the same exact story, but for France. A survey was done of over 900 French catechumens
Mm-hmm.
conducted by Catholic media outlets that revealed social media plays a crucial role in attracting young adults to Catholicism, with 78% saying social media played a role in the discovery or deepening of their faith, while 84% said they follow Christian content creators. And that reminded me and yeah, that was from Catholic News Agency. And that reminds me of when we kind of pulled our numbers to see like where the Guadalupe Radio Network has the most, I'm not the reach, but like where people are consuming the content that the GRN puts out. And the United States is obviously the first one. But you showed like a couple months ago that France was the second most I guess the country that watches or consumes the
Mm-hmm.
Catholic content.
Yeah, all the data that I shared was all based on our audio podcast, and
Right.
I think United Kingdom is the 5 or 6, and France has sort of moved between the second and fourth place. Spain is right up there. Canada is right up there.
Mm-hmm.
Germany, the Philippines, Ukraine, Russia. I
Right.
mean, these are the places that are downloading GRN social content. So it's amazing.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. But now, kind of on our second topic, it's going to take us to Rome, where the Vatican's
Mm.
dicastery for the clergy just dropped a major update to the church's rules on mass intentions and stipends, effective Easter Sunday. So just a few days from now. Now, if you've ever requested a mass for a loved one, say for a deceased relative or a special intention, you know how meaningful this tradition is. But with clergy shortages and rising demand, the Vatican's stepping in to keep things spiritually sound and practically doable. Now, this new decree, approved by Pope Francis on Palm Sunday, replaces a 1991 rule and tackles some, I guess, quote unquote, thorny issues. For starters, it cracks down on practices like substituting a promised mass with just a mention during a liturgy, calling that gravely illicit. It also allows collective intentions, where multiple offerings can be combined into one mass, but only if donors are fully informed and consent freely. It's kind of a big deal in places where priests are rather stretched thin, which I mean might be everywhere, especially in rural dioceses or mission territories. But here's the part that's really turning heads. Bishops can now reassign surplus mass intentions, so those requests piling up in one parish, to other parishes or mission territories in need. This is very interesting. I didn't even really see, this wasn't even on my radar until you mentioned it in one of the daily news briefs, Matt. But so why do you think now of all times we're doing this?
I'm not sure. I mean, this isn't a major change. A lot of this
Okay.
falls in line with Canon 945, which gives directions for stipends for Mass. The two big things is that multiple intentions can be included in a Mass. And what you just mentioned is this transfer, which I actually think is a pretty great idea, because there are these mission churches who are very small, and they can sort of see a benefit for them in being able to help. This brings together the concept of the universal church. Now, oftentimes people are like, oh, Father Francis was my mother's favorite priest, and I really want him to do the Mass on, the anniversary of her death, and so it may not satisfy some people when they're very particular about their intentions, but it's sort of a beautiful thing for the universal church. And but they're very strict about simony. If people aren't familiar, in the Acts of the Apostles, there's that guy Simon Magnus, I think his name was, and he was basically trying to offer the disciples, I'll give you some money if you teach me where your power comes from, right? So the church has always been very strict that you cannot buy these things. This is a gift offering, and generally speaking, a priest can't really take more than one Mass stipend per day, which is from Canon 945, and that continues to this day. But I think this is actually a good move for the church.
Yeah, I do like the idea of, especially if they're stretched thin, priests, that we have the ability to kind of take that and maybe move it to another parish that's able to take that particular intention or offering. But thank you so much, Matt, for joining us this morning on our midweekly news update. We have so much more to say, and that's why we're taking this conversation on over to the after show Clubhouse. Now, this is a way for us to obviously expand on what we were just talking about and so much more. So please join us. You can search GRN online or Morning Joy Radio on any of the social medias. All are welcome. Just make sure maybe go to YouTube or Rumble, because we have some wonderful joyful warrior pilgrims, I should say. Very welcoming as well. But this is us parting ways. Hey, have a blessed Spy Wednesday, and we'll see you bright and early for Holy Thursday. God bless. Make it a joyful day. We'll see you.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.